The iPhone 12. That's the one to buy. For most people, I think. Hey the people, how you doing? So, I've been using the iPhone 12, where, as I said, I've been using the iPhone 12 for about a week now, and, well, this is not a review, just to be clear. You know, I'm not reviewing it so early, but I just think that this one, as compared to its older brothers, or no, bigger brothers like the 12 Pro and Pro Max, or its smaller brother like the iPhone 12 mini, I think this one is like in the perfect middle ground. And of course, there are a number of reasons for that, and I'll elaborate on them, sure. But, end of the day, you guys must understand that it depends on which reasons satisfy your tastes, and whether or not the iPhone 12 is actually gonna suit you, or maybe it won't. Maybe you need the better ones, maybe you need the smaller one. So, yeah, depending on that, you guys can decide. I'm just here to give you the information. So, let's just get started with the design, how it differs from the iPhone 12 Pro, because that's where the real difference lies. Because it's either the 12 or the 12 Pro. If you have a lot of cash, go for the 12 Pro Max, you'll get a better phone. That's obvious. But yeah, as compared to the iPhone 12 Pro, I think that the design is kind of a downgrade, because the only real difference between the two is the matte finish. Now, of course, from a technical standpoint, the iPhone 12 Pro could look better, because that one's got stainless steel on the sides and this one's got aluminum. But I feel like if this one had the matte finish coupled with the matte finish of the aluminum, it would have been the best of both worlds. I don't really care about the extra bit of durability, because this whole thing is still almost 90% glass. You drop it, you'll most probably break it. No matter how strong glass gets, it's still glass. Just don't drop it or put on a case. There's really no other way to go around that, at least not for now. But nonetheless, I think the iPhone 12 Pro has a better design. But what about the displays? Because that is where it gets kind of interesting. Because this time around, as compared to its predecessor, we have the iPhone 12 with an OLED display. It is basically the same high quality, fairly high resolution at 1080p that we have on the iPhone 12 Pro. And compared to that, the only little difference that we have in terms of specs is that this one has a standard peak brightness of 625 nits, I believe that's the number. But the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max, they can go up to 800 nits. Now, how much that really matters, I'm not entirely sure, because in this week at least, I've used this in normal sunlight, did not feel the slightest issue. If you really want that brightness, sure, you could go for that, but end of the day, there is no realistic difference between the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro. But interesting fact is that there was supposed to be one. I think many of you know that the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max were supposed to come with 120Hz, but they didn't. I'm not exactly sure what the problem was, whether it was a supply chain problem or something else entirely. Maybe battery life? Who knows? But nonetheless, because of the sheer lack of the 120Hz on the Pro versions, it just makes the iPhone 12 that much more enticing and that much more valuable, because for 200 bucks, if you want like 100 nits more brightness and a matte finish, it's not that much worth it, now is it? But of course, that's not the only difference. And now we can go on to the cameras. And as compared to the iPhone 12 Pro, we have one less camera here, and that is a telephoto. Thank God it is a telephoto and not the ultra wide that's missing, because man, the fact that we have the ultra wide and wide angle camera, that's all I need. The main camera has amazing image quality and all that. It is essentially the same sensor that we have on the iPhone 12 Pro, so no upgrades there. When we go for the ultra wide, again, same story. And software processing is also the same. So again, not any reason at all to upgrade. But yeah, sure, if you really require a zoom, and understandably, a 2x zoom is kind of helpful in portraits and all that. And if you're really into taking portraits and you need that 2x telephoto zoom camera, then maybe the iPhone 12 Pro makes sense. But realistically, again, for 200 bucks, the major difference is having the telephoto camera. That is the only legitimate and real difference that I find that is functionally limiting the iPhone 12. because everything else is like, we can easily live with the glossy design, we can easily live with the slightly lower brightness. Other than the extra one camera that we get on the 12 Pro, we have lidar scanner. Now see, this is an important part. If in case you really want to use AR and augmented reality is your thing, then the iPhone 12 Pro makes sense. It makes a lot of sense because with a lidar scanner, AR takes massive leaps forward. I mean, this one doesn't even compare when it comes to AR. But I don't really think there are a lot of people out there who are legitimately interested in AR for other people like me who don't use AR at all. And well, coincidentally or not, I don't even care about the telephoto camera because I don't take portraits almost ever. The only real photographs that I take are either landscapes or is photos of my pet, Valentine. So, yeah, end of the day, I just think that if you want AR, maybe only then it kind of makes sense. And of course, if you really need the telephoto camera for portraits, then again it makes some sense. But for 200 extra dollars, I'm not too sure about that. And hell, in India, it makes even more sense to go and buy the iPhone 12 and not even look back because I just found out the difference. Apparently, here, the iPhone 12 costs around $540 less than the iPhone 12 Pro. My god, if that doesn't knock your socks off, I don't know what does. But yeah, at least if you're having this kind of price gap situation, or even for $200, I don't think it's that much of a big deal. The iPhone 12 is still too good to just pass on and go for something like the iPhone 12 Pro. And yeah, in India, I mean, the iPhone 12 is easily the better one here. Now, one last thing that I kind of forgot to mention almost is that this one has a base storage of 64 gigs, and on the other hand, the 12 Pro, that one comes in with 128 gigabytes. So, if you want this, you have to pay around $50 extra for 128 gigs. So, think about that as well. But even so, I'm still gonna recommend the iPhone 12 to anyone who wants an iPhone this year. There is another reason. I'll get to that a little bit in the end, but I wanted to compare this with the iPhone 12 Pro Max as well. Obviously, I haven't used it, but I have seen a number of reviews about it. They just came out a day ago, so you know, here's what I can gather. From a technical standpoint, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, that's such a big name, but anyways, it has a larger main sensor, which means more light and better depth of field. Again, technically. And it has a 2.5 times optical zoom telephoto camera. Far as I've seen with some comparisons and most of the samples and all that, the 12 Pro Max isn't really that different from the iPhone 12 or the 12 Pro when it comes to normal images and even night mode. Because far as I've seen, the quality and the shots, they look almost exactly the same. So it just goes to show that when you have such high quality processing, the sensor almost doesn't even matter, and that's crazy if you ask me. I mean, even against the 12 Pro Max, in terms of cameras, all you're losing out on really is that slightly higher telephoto zoom. But of course, the 12 Pro Max has other major benefits when it comes to just the overall phone itself. We have a much larger display, 6.7 inches, and that is basically on par with all of the other smartphones that have come out. And then when it comes to batteries, well, there lies another big difference between the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. It is a larger phone, so essentially it's got a much bigger battery. It'll give you obviously better battery life than the iPhone 12. Alright, so here's where my thoughts lie. I think that if you need an iPhone, like you have to upgrade, go for the iPhone 12 because more likely than not, there's gonna be a very, very enticing reason next year to upgrade. Because, yeah, this year it didn't happen, but next year, most probably we'll be getting 120Hz on the Pro models of the iPhones, and those are gonna cost a pretty penny. Let me assure you. So, with that cost in mind, it makes sense to buy a slightly cheaper iPhone this year because essentially this is major, like almost 80 to 90% of the Pro versions, at least against the iPhone 12 Pro. So now, what about the iPhone 12 Pro Max? Because that one is technically amazing because we have a larger phone, amazing battery, technically better camera, but you guys know the situation about that. But yeah, I think that when it comes to the iPhone 12 Pro Max, if you don't care about 120 Hz at all, and you require an iPhone and you want it to be the best one, and basically you're going to stick with it for a few years now, you're not going to upgrade, you know that for sure, then the iPhone 12 Pro Max makes a lot of sense. So, if you really need an iPhone now and you plan on upgrading next year and you want 120 Hz, the iPhone 12 is the way to go. If you're planning on not upgrading for a few years to come, go for the 12 Pro Max because spending that extra bit of money will give you better RAM, it'll give you better storage, it'll give you better screen size, it'll give you better battery. All those things put together, it'll future proof your phone a little bit better than what the iPhone 12 will. Now, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be seeing you guys later. Cheers.